Anyway, so where are you? You're in Texas?
Yeah, Houston.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Have you been there like your whole life? What?
Here when I was 13, so pretty much. Yeah.
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 Pretty cool pond you have that. But is that a pool?
Yeah. I'm
Oh,
outside
cool.
because it's nice today.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's we don't get many days like this.
Yeah.
Usually hot, so I'm enjoying it.
So tell me about yourself. I don't know much about you. Your name came up when I heard a little while back when Val was telling me the story about how you were her son Will's music teacher. Is that correct?
Yeah, yeah.
So, okay, this is in Texas. Where?
Yeah. They're in spring, close to us, yeah.
Okay.
So I met, that's how we got diagnosed. I don't know if she told you that story, but interestingly, when Abby started declining in probably 2016, I mean, honestly, if we have hindsight, she's been declining for years and years. She's 28 now. So she was diagnosed when she was 22 back in 2017.
Yeah.
And in 2016 is when her big decline started. It was really, she's attenuated. So I met Valerie at I was a music therapist at the time doing music therapy camp. Met her because she brought Will to it. But I was talking to a coworker about Abby, and I was like, yeah, we don't know what's going on. Her speech is disappearing. Like this is a big deal. We're trying to find out what's wrong. We're going to neurologists, all this. And Valerie heard me and was like, and just said, you might want to check into this, and told me about it. And it just went from there. It's crazy.
Had she met and seen your daughter at that point or no?
No, she hadn't. And she just heard the way I was talking about the regression and everything and
Oh,
things, diarrhea and speech disappearing, and just it just made sense. So she coincidentally went to a conference a little while later and she called me and was like, hey, can I show this video? We had put it on Facebook or something. And I was like, can I show these to some doctors? And I'm like, yeah. And she did. And they were like, yeah, she needs to get tested. I don't have a lot of videos, unfortunately, of Abby when she was little because she was raised in the 90s. We didn't have cell phones. We were busy raising children. I'm still really not one of those that just captures everything. I don't get my phone out immediately. But yeah, I don't have a lot of video from when she was younger, but I did have a couple of her singing. I mean, because she was like full sentences, everything when she was small. Comparing that to now, and it's 9 day. Yeah.
so all right, let's go back now so I can get to know you better.
I was born in South Carolina. My dad was in the Air Force, and then he got into oil. We started moving. We moved to North Carolina. That's when he got into oil, and then we went to Ohio, Oklahoma, and then here.
Chasing oil all over the country. Is that
Yeah,
okay?
yeah. So,
Yeah.
but I think it's probably a God thing because I have cancer. So MD Anderson is here, and they're the only reason I'm still alive because I've been dealing with cancer since 2015.
You went where?
To Tulsa, Oklahoma. On my 13th birthday is when we moved here to Houston. I went to North Texas in Denton and majored in piano at first, music, and then ended up with marketing.
Were you like hoping to be a musician or like a
Yeah,
teacher?
I've played piano since I was 5. I'm the organist at my church, and music's a huge part of my life. I thought I wanted to do that, but I'm not now that I know I'm not a performer. Favorite thing is accompanying, which is you just play for soloists, somebody singing or playing an instrument. That's what I love to do, and that's why I love to accompany our choir at church. I like to be in the background and support it. Anyway, at the time I didn't know. I thought piano was just all I did, and that was going to be my life. And again, I didn't thrive in an environment where I'm supposed to perform all the time. So I ended up quitting that and getting into marketing because my dad was like, just do business. And I think with church, it's about glorifying God and serving Him and in helping people with that. And so I think it's different. It's not a performance.
You went into marketing. What did you do in marketing?
Ended up working at a mutual funds company for 7 years. This 92, I graduated in 92, so it's probably 92, I think. Then met my husband in 93, and we were married by 94. It was quick. Jeff, we're still married. We're about to have our 30th anniversary next month.
I thought you were about to say we're about to have our third kid next month.
Oh, no. Oh my gosh.
That's what I thought you were about to say. I was like, whoa, this is
No more
breaking news.
children. Met him, and it was that was just great. And then we ended up getting pregnant, had a miscarriage, then got pregnant again very quickly and had Abby. And she was born with, now that we know, transitachymnia, which is the fluid in the lungs. That's part of the Sanfilippo probably. And she was in the NICU for a little bit and couldn't breathe. She was on oxygen. Came home. She was a 10-pound baby though. She was like super, beautiful. She was born, she was making this hiccuping kind of a sound, and we thought it was adorable. And it ended up, she was fine. Her AFGAR scores were great. She was fine. They took her, I went to sleep, and then they took her to the nursery, and they woke me up an hour later and was like, your child can't breathe. Something's, and I'm like, oh. So they put her on oxygen and she ended up being fine. But yeah, that is a part of Sanfilippo. If you look at the list of, she had umbilical hernia, same thing.
And
So I'm working. Wish I would have just not worked and stayed home, but I don't know. I wasn't told otherwise, and was like, I guess that's just what we're supposed to do. Because he was a coach and a teacher. He didn't make money. So I was like, okay, I'll work. I made more than he did. It was like, let's just have two incomes. That's fine. The problem was, as she got older, and then we had Emily when Abby was 2.5. So, but for Abby, she had her in every daycare setting possible. We had a nanny, we had Montessori, we did the full-on daycare, we did a group home, we did all the settings. Just nothing worked. I was getting calls constantly at work like, your child did this, your child did this. It was awful because she was so hyper. And now, of course, I know why. I thought I was crazy, but anyway, wasn't hitting milestones, and I ended up quitting when I don't know, they were probably 3 and 5, maybe. She was probably 5. Yeah, it was by the time she started school. Yeah. So I ended up staying home with her, with both of them, and which was the right thing to do. It was hard, but it was the right thing to do. She just was in special education all her life. We thought she had autism, and that's just what we lived in. And it never really felt right, but that's what it was, and it got the services we needed.
Now, in the state of Texas, how have you found the sort of like the coverage and secondary insurance to be? I know it varies from state to state.
Yeah, I'm happy with it. Now she's Medicaid, but she's still on our insurance, and our insurance is amazing because Jeff's now working. He works with Savis Learning Company and does something different, but the insurance is amazing. They have shelled out millions of dollars for my cancer treatment. I'm happy with it. We got her on a list for aid in, I think it was like 07 is when we got on it, and our name still hasn't been called. It's like one of those state lists where you get money for special needs. And because we were thinking at that time, maybe when she was older, she'd be in a group home or something. Obviously, that's never going to happen. But in the meantime, Texas came up with a waiver program where while you're on this list that's over 10 years, here is some funding for caregivers and things like that. And we take full advantage of that. Yeah. She's got 2 caregivers, and it's great.
What is a typical day like for her right now?
Really very low key. She's got ABA therapy a couple times a week. They come for an hour or so. Her interests and her language is pretty much gone. She sits at home mostly and watches movies or listens to music or whatever. We actually just got a wheelchair for her. Still mobile, but it's getting worse and worse. She's very unstable. And so I finally get the wheelchair approved, and her caregiver that's here today just took her out for a walk because it's so pretty today. There's just not a lot of interest there anymore. And she's, like I said, she's a full grown adult, and it's difficult to maneuver her around. So, yeah.
Have you had to sort of physically like carry her upstairs? Like how does that all
No,
work?
I mean, we are in a one story, thank goodness. We take turns in terms of just like guiding her to the bathroom and stuff, but she's still thankfully able to get into her bed. We have a shower chair. We've modified the shower. We got a thing for the pool for her to lift. For now, we're ahead of the game in terms of what we need for her, because I was terrified of getting to the day that she can't walk and we have no wheelchair. You know what I mean?
Right, right.
So yeah, we've got everything we need so far.
So Abby was in special needs school throughout like elementary and middle and all that.
Her whole life. Yeah.
Yeah.
She went to school through age 22. She was diagnosed like right after she graduated.
What were some of the medical challenges and kind of landmines that you guys hit along the way before a diagnosis came about?
Over the years, Abby was very strong-willed, very, and very oppositional. I ended up driving them to school every day because she refused to get on the bus. Just became this power thing. And I'm like, forget it. I'll just drive you. And it was fine. But then she decided, we'd get to school and we'd be in the parking lot and she wouldn't get out of the car. That kind of stuff. And so it was exhausting. After she hit puberty, she calmed down. But before that, she was very hyperactive and very all over the place and just constantly moving around. She was pretty independent and was speaking and all that. I mean, I look back at the few videos we do have of when she was that age, and I don't remember that. I honestly don't. I don't know if it's a memory problem. I just, when I think of Abby, I think of her right now. I don't even remember her like that.
Her sleeping been over the years, and how is it now?
Pretty good, actually. I think maybe because she's older. I don't know, but she doesn't do those all-nighters. I don't know if that's coming, but she luckily doesn't do that. She would have some nights where she might be up for a little while. She's pretty restful now because we have her on the trazodone, which is for sleep. I think we're in a pretty good place now, but it wasn't always like that. She didn't always sleep real well.
Have you guys considered or looked into any of these clinical trial options at this point, or is
Yeah, we've done one clinical trial. There was one out in California for the anakinra in 2018. And we drove out there one time and then we flew out there the second time. Didn't see a lot of results from it. I know some of the families really did and are now on it. I think full time. They got insurance to cover it, but we were like, it doesn't matter. We don't regret doing it for sure. I mean, we wanted to be helpful, anything we can do for a cure, to add to the data. So, but I don't think we'll do any more. I mean, you have to be honest at this point. She's there. We have asked the neurologists, there's no coming back from this. The cells that have died are dead and there's no way to regenerate them. So, that
physically, otherwise, does she have any major like physical complications, or is she like kind of knock on wood hanging in there pretty well?
the positives are she's still pretty happy. She doesn't seem to be in pain that we can tell. We just kind of have to go off of her facial expressions and things, but she's okay. I mean, it's about perspective, right? In context. And you look at these families. I mean, I know there's one right now. She's got pneumonia, Trinity, and you don't know if she's going to make it.
How have you mentally dealt with and psychologically, battled the demons and the negative, scary thoughts that come with having a daughter with a terminal illness, and she's on the much older side, 28. And secondly, I would like to hear how your cancer diagnosis and your cancer journey has impacted the way you've sort of approached your daughter's terminal illness and with your family and all that.
And the first one, dealing with her having a terminal illness, we got diagnosed in 2017. It takes probably a good year or so for the shock to even just settle with you. And, I remember when she was diagnosed, I couldn't believe it. It was just, what? There's no way. But on the flip side of that, you for a second are like, oh, we have an answer, because we were looking and didn't know. We knew it was going to be bad. We knew it was going to be neurodegenerative because of the MRI that she'd had. So we knew, but never imagined it would be anything terminal. So that it was shocking when you get that, and then you're expected to just walk around in the world. And I remember the first family outings and things that we had, and like, are we really going to fucking talk about the weather right now? Is that what we're doing? That's when I started writing the column that I do every month or every other
Yeah.
month.
How did that come about? How did you find these?
I think they found me. I started, it was in like 2019.
Mhm.
Uh, and I don't remember how they found me, but they approached me. It's Bio News is what they're called. And they just publish all these different rare disease columns. And it's all online. I remember writing, I offended some family. But I'm honest. I mean, I I didn't mean to hurt anyone's feelings, but it was like, please put yourself in our shoes for a second.
Mhm.
You know, we just found out that we're going to outlive our child, but yet we have to navigate through the world as if, that's hard. I think that's why we started Abby's Alliance, because as you know, it's so helpless. You're just like dumped this pile of shit in your lap, and you're supposed to just be like, okay, and just go about life. Um, we immediately kind of went into action mode. What can we do to help or make this better, or to make this disease go away or cure it, whatever? And I think that's when we did Abby's Alliance. It was pretty quickly after that. And just, it's not an official 501 3, whatever that's called, my nonprofit, but we've done a few fundraisers where we've raised money for Cure Sanfilippo Foundation. We just wanted to rally and get everyone around us, and those people who know those people, and just out, the ripple effect.
Mhm.
Number one, know the name Sanfilippo Syndrome, because there's just still so many that they don't, including doctors. And then, just through prayer, and that's the symbol that we have. Well, it's not on my bracelet, but is the hands, and the praying hands and the fists, like, because we're going to fight it.
Mhm.
It's a battle, but we're also relying on prayer, to help us get through. And that's a piece of it for us.
Yeah, I was going to ask, how has your religious community like rallied around you and helped you in supporting the mission to raise awareness and advocacy and all that?
Our church has been great. We've been going through a lot of changes in terms of priests and things, just that nothing to do with Abby. But so the priest that we had for over 25 years retired now. She left, but we're about to get a new one. We're just about to meet him this Sunday, actually. The sad thing is, Abby grew up in that church. She wasn't baptized there. She was baptized in a different one, but she grew up in that church. She was an acolyte there, vacation Bible school, all the stuff, and got confirmed and everything. The sad thing is, people don't know her anymore. That makes me sad, but it's true. We don't take her to church anymore because she can be noisy, and I don't want to distract from the service, but I have to be there because I'm the organist. But yeah, it makes me sad that people don't know her anymore. So yeah.
Yeah, like what is kind of the way to around that? Like, do you find a special needs like push in your church or in the religious communities in general for
What
children? Or is it too hard to mix the two because of the
it is. I think too, if you just ask people, a lot of times they just need to be asked. And we would end up asking, hey, can Abby sit with you, or can you help us with whatever? And they would super willing to do it.
yeah.
Yeah,
You know what you find? It's hard to keep asking people. Sometimes when you ask people, it's a short-term thing, and then having to sort of remind people becomes very hard and kind of uncomfortable. But I also think it's like a big reason why it's so important for people to try to get their communities to understand these diseases as much as they can, so that they see them on a playground or in the mall. Like Connor, everybody knows him, and it's
yeah,
great. They react with a lot of open-mindedness and understanding, and it's just there.
right. And that's the bigger picture of this. It's true. I mean, even before Sanfilippo, Yeah, if you just want to say special needs or whatever, yeah, it is. It's demystifying it, right? For people. So it's like it's okay, it's fine. I mean, and it's kind of like with Emily, her sister, um, she is now teaching first grade. She's teaching her students. Like she's very mindful of the life skills kids that are like next door or down the hall from her. Kindness and acceptance is number one. Not making fun of people, all that. And so I think, yeah, they do have to be taught, but it is part of just kind of demystifying, and like they're just people. It's fine. You don't need to be scared of them. She loves to write. She loves it. She wanted to actually be a writer at one point. And so it is a unique perspective for sure. And she kind of wishes she could find some older siblings to connect with, because almost all the kids are really little, and so the siblings are really little. Just like we had a Sanfilippo gathering of Texas families in October, and all the siblings were younger than her, and she would love to try and connect with somebody that's like in their 20s or whatever, but because it's a unique perspective and situation to be in.
I'm a big fan of people who put their heart out there and share their story. I say the same about you. I read your columns, and I think it takes a lot of courage and bravery to like put yourself out there and, kind of talk about things. But inevitably, I'm sure you find family, Sanfilippo parents coming to you and saying, "Hey, thanks for sharing that." Like, what kind of reaction have you gotten from your writing, and how has it helped you, heal? Does it help you to just get that out on paper and kind of clear your mind?
I think it does help, and that's one reason why I'm so honest. I'm not going to disparage anyone, but I'm also not going to hide my feelings. I get some reaction from parents. I don't know if a lot of people, if it's getting out there. I don't know. But when people do read it, they're like, "Oh wow, that thanks. I hadn't thought of that." Or because it,
Something else that gives you a platform to share your story with even your own audience out there, whether on social media or your own friends, which I think is pretty powerful to even have that platform.
agreed. It's a way, like I said, to be honest and share. I'm always interested in rare disease parents or special needs parents, whatever, but parents that have struggles with something that I had no idea about, like with cancer. The only thing that I can think of is when I was diagnosed, it was rectal cancer. It's metastasized now in my lungs, but I had to have part of my colon removed, and so I had to have an ileostomy, which is, I don't know if you know anything. I knew nothing about ostomies,
Yeah, I don't
and
know.
I'm like, there's a whole community of people walking around with this awful impediment that they have to have on their body all the time, and we don't even know about it. So I had an ileostomy, which is where they basically take part of your small intestines and it's pulled out of your body, and you have a bag that's attached to your body, and all the waste comes out there. A colostomy is the other one that it's comes out of your large intestines. But anyway, it was a nightmare. It was awful. I hated it. Just awful.
Was after Abby's diagnosis that this whole cancer battle happened, or before?
That I was diagnosed in 2015, and then she was diagnosed in 17.
Oh wow. So you sort of had to go through two separate huge events that like rocked your world and faced you face to face with your mortality and your daughters.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, it was like, seriously, dude. Like,
You put
are you
two
kidding
things
me?
on me.
Like, yeah. And I still kind of go through that sometimes, but I just choose, honestly, I very much intentionally choose not to live in a cancer bubble. There's no reason for that. That's no way to live life, right? So part of it's just a choice. To me, the more important issue is her diagnosis, because that's just ultimately not fair.
It's also every parent's nightmare to
It is.
bury their own child.
Yeah. Yeah. You have your circles of friends, and there are people, especially at our church, everyone almost knows about me having cancer
Mm,
because I've had it for so long. I'm there every week. I'm present.
yeah.
Uh, but again, they don't know about Abby, but my daughter is also like, anyway. But then you have the other people who all know about Abby and may not know about me. That's less important to me.
But it's also tough for you too. You need people to wrap their arms around you too.
Sure, yeah.
Human being.
And I have it. I mean, my mom was my biggest cheerleader, but she died in 2020 and unexpectedly. It was awful. She was Abby's absolutely biggest cheerleader and huge hole. Jeff's family's great. He's great. You know, so Emily, but yeah, it's a lot and I'm okay. I do worry about Jeff. I worry about Emily.
Mhm.
Just because it's a lot. It's a lot to bear.
Yeah.
Because as their caretakers or their caregivers, and it's like, especially Jeff, for both me and Abby. Emily doesn't live here anymore, but she still worries from afar. It just sucks.
Yeah.
Yeah. So